All right, traders, welcome to the end of day recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Thursday the 16th. So we had a nice move in the indices today. A little bit of a give back at the end of the day. I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about a little bit of the different movers. So, bottom line in this market, the first thing that I want to talk about is strategy. This is something that if you are not a member of the Tribeca Trade Group of the Trading Room, I give midday sessions where we kind of talk about strategy and the underlying theme and really what I try to stress as much as possible is to take profits when we're in on these big green days. You cannot right now, and again, these videos are obviously for information purposes only. I'm not giving any advice or anything like that, but that said, you have to take profits on these green days. I think day to day there is just a tremendous amount of intraday volatility within different names and within different sectors. We saw this in XRT earlier in the week, which I talked about yesterday too. I know, so I'm going over this again. But big move on Wednesday, and it just does the complete opposite on Thursday. So the FANG stocks today, they were a little bit weak today. So why were they weak today? Well, I think there's a pretty, I can always explain these things, I think, pretty easily. But, Facebook, for instance, was down 2.7%. The FANG stocks, and not just the FANG stocks, but a few of the other stocks that are internet stocks have been a little bit of a hiding place to put people's money. They've got high growth. And there's been less exposure to the trade talk, trade tariffs, whatever you want to call it. And when they seem to make a little bit of headway or progress, today or last night they just announced that they're going to be sitting down again, which is some, I guess, progress at this point. People start to look at some of those beaten up areas and go into the industrial space. They go into a little bit of materials, which were pretty well bid today. They go into some of these unloved defense stocks. There was a couple upgrades as well today. But it's a rotational system that's going on. So, Boeing was a huge name today. It closed a little bit off the highs. And what I said in the midday session is, first of all, we have a big, yesterday was the day to add risk. I know as difficult as it is when it looks like the world is going to end. And I said this in last night's video. I said I was going home with risk. So you could look at my last night's video if you did not view that. But I went long IWM and I went long the Qs, and decent size too, because it's worked. And what I said in last night's video was I will keep doing this until it doesn't work, but it works. And again, I don't want to jinx it, but on days like this, even though everything is moving up, you cannot chase unless you're trading, intraday and you're going to be super quick day trading. It just doesn't pay to chase on these green days. I'm really interested in the industrial space. I think that some names have been beaten up. Emerson is one name that had really good earnings and has been kind of, I like to use this word a lot, but it's been digesting. Honeywell, also looks pretty interesting here. FedEx looks pretty interesting, which I started a position in FedEx today. I was supposed to add to it at the end of the day and I forgot to. But, I'm basically targeting this 257 area for a swing trade. And I think so what did I put on today? And I'll show you my trades. Whoops. As I always do. Complete transparency. Qs out of that on the open, and I legged out of the IWM that I put on yesterday. FedEx, I put on the October 250 calls. Oh, yeah, I did not do a call spread on this one because the implied volatility was not that expensive. And yeah, so I think this group looks pretty interesting, but I'm not going to stick my neck out and add on a big green day. That has not worked. So, while the overall market continues to go higher, you just have to have this strategy in place right now. So we can go over the day's option activity, which I think is important, which I need to actually do a better summary because there's more trades that happen at the end of the day. But it was pretty quiet the last couple hours of the day. I'm missing an XLI trade in here as well. There was a nice order of XLI calls, 16,000 of these traded for September. Cheapies, right? I'm surprised I do not have this in here. But Xerox also saw some calls. Shutterfly. This is a nice looking trade. So anyway, before I go into the individual names, they're great for ideas, and I'll show you one idea that we found today. But you have to have this strategy of right now, leaning down your positions when we get a big day like this, and kind of bulking up a little bit on the red days. It seems like that's just the way things are working right now, and it's been working out pretty well for me. Shutterfly, a name that I've never traded before. Take a look at this. A move all the way into the 200-day moving average, and a move all the way into the and a VPOC taken out, which is good. Now we might see a reversion. So they went all the way out to March. The trade that went up was the March 90 calls that went up. I bought a little bit cheaper or closer to the money. I think I bought the 80 calls. Just a couple, a name that I never traded before, but I really like the technicals. I would watch for a bounce in this name. It's pretty oversold into support. Xerox also had some nice aggressive calls that went up today. Let's see where this finished. This would be known as a counter trend trade. I did not take this trade because I just didn't know if there was going to be enough. I think this thing could get up to 27.50, but it's in a downtrend. So you could play a bounce in a downtrend, especially just for a day trade. But I don't know. I didn't see that much to it. There's a lot of Yandex calls that went up. That's another one that I need to update. There's 5,000 of those that traded. I guess I don't have that one. The healthcare names also have been very strong. J&J now back above the 200-day moving average, non-dividend adjusted, is this chart that I have in front of you. But a lot of other names. Abbott was a name that I put out in our trading room last night as a long setup. I think the healthcare space is really showing some nice strength to it. And again, much different. It all depends upon which stocks. So this is the XLV, and this is the IBB. What looks strong to you? And even the XBI. Does this look strong? Does this look like a strong chart to you? Now there may be a trade here as we're coming into here, but look at this. Look at the XLV. So again, it's all, you cannot categorize and say, oh, biotech's having a bad year when you look at the IBB. There's a lot of different names that have had huge moves. This GBT made a nice move. It sold off a little bit at the end of the day, but I like this, now above the 200-day moving average. The XHE is still holding gains. This is healthcare equipment. IHF, which is absolutely breaking out. If you're not, so again, look at this chart for healthcare. This is healthcare providers. So your Aetna, your Cigna, your United Healthcare. I mean, absolutely full-on breakout mode. So, it's amazing. The reason why I'm showing this, it's such a big difference between the individual stocks that you could own a basket of biotech stocks, and if you're not in the right ones, you could have this performance versus, and what's the other one? PSCH is small cap healthcare versus this. That's so. It is, the other thing I'll say is, why I'm doing this and why I'm going through some of these charts is, this is not an easy market. You cannot sit in names that are trendless and think that they're going to, just magically go up. There's all kinds of strength in this market, but you have to really be able to identify it. That's what we do at Tribeca Trade Group. That's my goal, is to find the momentum, to find the trends, and not get into one of the ones that are a stick in the mud. So I think that's pretty interesting. What else did so another name that I bought on weakness was Penn. This name is starting to work. I don't own a big position in this. I own 50 shares in it. But I'm up a good couple $100 on this one just from me adding this last week. What else did I do today? The Chinese stocks, which I didn't really get to go over too much, but the Chinese internets did get a bounce today, but they gave back a lot of the gains. BABA continues to be the same thing. It cannot hold a bid right now. This thing was up, I think, about 2.5%. So these things are not out of the woods. So yes, if you happen to go long last night and sold on the open or sold around here, congratulations to you. But China did not close up on the day last night. So maybe that happens tonight. I think you're really lucky if you played some of these last night for a bounce. You know, JD had bad earnings, but not as bad as what the expectations were. You know, Baidu, same thing. I mean, you have to be really quick. If you went long overnight, you got to get out into strength. You cannot think that you're going to have a big winner right now with these names, and especially, you got to follow the local market. Local market was down last night, so yeah, you got to bounce. Congratulations, but you cannot watch the paint dry. There was some really big positioning for Baba today. Some big, huge trades going out a year. So very interesting the way that somebody is positioning here. Now, granted, Baba could be a great earnings trade in a week. But look at what they're targeting for a year, almost a year, you know, I guess 10 months. The 210 calls back to a 52-week high. Could it happen with Baba? Sure, in 10 months' time. And it is holding the support. But I think this is earnings are going to really have to get this thing going, or the Chinese market is going to start changing and heating up locally for these things to really, get back into a nice uptrend. But, they've lost the momentum. Can they be can they be trades right now? I think it's just going to take time. And you can see this is widening out right now, which is really unusual. Just a couple names, just to talk about the names that reported earnings after the close. I know I'm missing a few trades for the day for option activity, but we did see a lot of rolling of positions as well. I did not trade NVIDIA. It's right down to the implied move for earnings, which is 6.1%, which is right around 242. I thought the risk was to the downside for this one. The guidance was a little bit low, which is what people are looking at always for this, especially in these semiconductors, which people are getting a little bit worried at. Applied Materials, their current numbers were good, but they lowballed their guidance. So again, it looks like these semis are going to have some issues the way that they are guiding. And then the good one, Nordstrom up $58 of these retail. To me, that and seeing what Walmart did today. It just shows that the consumer is spending. I think the size of the pie, when you look at a pie chart, looks like it's getting bigger. It's not so much, the fighting for the slices inside the pie. It's the overall pie seems to be getting bigger, meaning that the consumer is spending right now, which I think is a good thing. All right, thanks for watching tonight's video. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.